Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. When someone goes missing, suspicion often falls on the last person to see them. When children go missing, suspicion often falls on the parents. Now, that suspicion is often unjustified and wrong. So let me guide you into looking at how that person talks to see if they're a desperately worried person or hiding something. So you'll know how to listen to and how to decode something like this.
As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I do here is different from anywhere else. I strip away everything apart from the words that are said and then use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing possible deception, possibly where the truth is, and also the motivations of the person talking. Now, at the time of recording in Nova Scotia, Canada, 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan are missing. I've done an episode looking at the only interview their mom gave, and I had some concerns on the back of that. I'll go through those concerns again here as we look at the stepfather, Daniel Martell. He has spoken a lot more, as we'll see, and it's him speaking that we're going to analyse in this episode. Just like I did last time, as it is a parent of a missing child, what I'm going to do is look at what the concern is. What are they concerned about? Where's Dan's focus? What is he focusing on? And concepts that he repeats when he talks, because that will show us what is going on inside his head, what is high priority for him, which is coming out in his words. So let's have a look and listen to the words of Daniel Martell.
The last few days have been very stressful. I mean, ever since the Friday morning when we noticed that the children were gone. Immediately jumped in the vehicle, surveyed all the areas, many dirt roads, many culverts as I could, and waited for the police to get there.
A very short clip of Dan to start off with there. He said the last few days have been very stressful. That's the first thing he mentions. And what I'm taken by immediately is his focus on himself, the stress that has been on him. Now, generally, people like to tell the truth. I believe here that we have this guy telling the truth. The last few days have been very stressful, but he doesn't say why they've been stressful. He goes on to talk about the search. Is the search been stressful? But certainly no concern voiced for the children. It's been very stressful, worrying about those two kids. He says, I mean, ever since Friday morning. Now, Dan stutters and repeats himself a lot. I think it's his sort of natural way of talking. Stuttering can indicate stress, and he is saying there he is stressful. But I do think that there is some stuttering that is in his way of talking, maybe a low confidence way of talking. So ever since Friday morning, when we noticed the children were gone. Now, this phrase is interesting here. When we noticed the children were gone. I said when I looked at the mom that she was telling the story very much from the point of view of we. She spoke about what we did and we noticed a lot rather than telling it from her point of view. When I noticed things, she used we a hell of a lot more, and we have a similar thing here. It wasn't that one of these people, wasn't Dan or it wasn't the mom that noticed the children were gone. It was we. It was the pair of us noticed that the children were gone. And noticed is interesting. That's almost casual. Oh, I noticed you've got a new dress. I noticed you've painted the wall. It's like an observation rather than realised, hit us. It's just very casual in terms of noticing some that children have gone rather than realising that the children have gone, rather than it being a little bit more immediate. They sort of casually noticed the children were gone. He says then immediately jumped into the vehicle. Now, what I spotted from the mom was she talked about instantly calling 911, instantly going searching, and she was very keen in her words to tell us how fast they reacted. She could just tell us how they reacted. That would be absolutely fine. I felt she had a need to persuade us how fast these guys reacted as soon as they saw the children were gone. Now, that made me think, did they really move that fast? Does she have a need to persuade and convince us that they moved fast? And I have the same thing here from him. As soon as he noticed the children were gone, I immediately jumped in the vehicle. Now, doesn't make loads of sense, actually, when you think about the use of that word immediately, because as soon as we noticed the children were gone, and he's going to say this at other points in the words we look at, he searched around places they could be around the house first, and then jumped in the vehicle. And that's what you would expect, isn't it? You know, you wouldn't see the children have gone and immediately jump in a car without checking the immediate vicinity. But that's not what he says in his words there. And I think that's because he also has this need to persuade us how quickly they acted. I'm not sure they acted that quick. I think there is a delay between the children going missing or them noticing the children have gone missing and any actions that they took. He also has dropped a pronoun. He doesn't say, I immediately jumped in the vehicle, which would be ownership of the action. When we say I, my, me, we really own and commit ourselves to the words that we are using. But he doesn't say I there at all. He just says, immediately jumped in the vehicle. So that I don't think he immediately jumped in the vehicle. Two tells there for me that he didn't jump in the vehicle immediately. He says, surveyed all the areas, as many dirt roads, as many culverts as I could, and waited for the police to get there. Now, I thought surveyed was an interesting word. Surveyed is when you are looking to see something, to take in what's there. It's not searching for something. It's not looking for something. It's not hoping to find something. It's just surveying, which is taking in all what you see rather than looking for something specific. He talks about as many dirt roads, as many culverts as I could. Now, I'm going to flag up culverts here. Water is a recurring theme in what Daniel talks about. And a culvert drains water, or is a drain through a tunnel and so on. And this is the first mention we'll see here of him mentioning something related to water. Now, I will say it was rainy. I think it was rainy in that clip. There's certainly clips where it was rainy. And the mom also said in her interview there was a lot of rain that day. So it would make sense to look in culverts for sure. I'm not saying it's a nonsensical thing to do. What I am pointing out is that culverts is the very first mention we'll see here as we go through what he says. The very first mention of water or water-related concepts. Now, when I looked at this quote, I only had this quote in writing. When I looked at it inside the mom episode, I said, waited for the police to get there. And I thought that was a bit interesting. Was he avoiding the police? Because when they get there, not here, then he's not where the police are arriving. Having looked at it and thought about it a bit more, I'm a little bit less suspicious of that word, because when he is being interviewed, is not where the police went to. So it's the police to get there, i.e. I think at the house. So I think that is what we've got going on there with Dan. So look, just one answer, and there's a few worries about what he said. He doesn't seem to have been searching particularly deeply. He was surveying rather than searching, in his own words. And this need to persuade us how fast he moved when he noticed the children were gone. Noticed the children were gone, a little bit casual for my liking, and also that concern for himself and not for the children there, by talking about how stressful the last few days have been. Let's have a listen to a little bit more now of Dan talking.
We were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day we did. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Screaming as loud as I can, just until my throat hurt. Running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in a military outfit said I could go back into the woods.
So he starts off there by talking about we again. We were searching. Now, this is not a follow-on from the interview that we've just seen, I don't think. So while in the first clip he was talking about what he did, here he's talking about we, but he's talking about we were searching. Nothing suspicious about that. It's just, again, it's a story from the point of view of we. And he does mention searching here, which is good. So we were searching. We covered everywhere possible is the next thing that he said. Now, this is an absolute. We covered everywhere possible. Now, that does sound very wide-ranging. We searched we covered everywhere. But then it's qualified a little bit by saying possible. So what does possible mean there? It's kind of convincing us with the use of the word everywhere that this search was very extensive. And then it's qualified with possible. And we don't know how wide that was now because it's been qualified by the word possible. He says, even in the first day, even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Now, even in the first day is how he starts off that segment there. Again, this feels to me like he is talking about immediacy, quick action. And again, as we go through what we listen to from Daniel, he's very keen to say that from day one, he was searching. Why is that? Why is it important for him to say that? Why is it important for him to get that out in his words? Once again, he's showing a sort of concern for self. This is almost like a resume statement. Look, what a great guy I am. I've been searching since day one. I've been doing a lot of searching there. I'm not saying it's not true. What I'm saying is I'm interested in why he feels the need to tell us this, to tell us about his actions. We still haven't had any concern for the children verbalized. You could say that the fact he's talking about searching is interesting, that he is showing concern through the search, but he's not verbalizing concern for the kids. And you'll notice as well that he's not saying what he was searching for. He hasn't added the children into that. We were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Doesn't say what he is looking for. Then we have that even in the first day. And then he talks about even with me running through the woods. I'm interested. If you're searching for something, is running the best way to search? Running is the best way to cover a lot of ground and to look active and even to be active. But is running the best way to search for two small children? Or is this, again, a need in language to show how active he has been, to get across to us just how much damn work that he has done? And he talks about running through the woods, and woods will come up a lot with this guy. Why is that? Woods are obviously very important to him. That's what we can tell by words that people use a lot. We'll see him talk about woods a lot. Or is he convinced that these children are in the woods? We don't know right now, but he does say woods at all. And then he talks about I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. He talks about I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones. Now, earlier it was we were searching, we covered everywhere. Possible that we were searching and they split off, but also possible then that he was ahead of the helicopters and the drones. But would certainly, this is now actions on him alone. And again, talking about being ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones is, again, this need for him to persuade us or communicate to us or tell us how hard he was working, how fast he was with things, which is a concept that he really wants us to get to us on. He was working on the first day. He immediately jumped in his truck. He was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones. And these things in the sky, helicopters and drones and search instruments, are very important to him. They come out in his words a lot more, as we will see. Then he talks about screaming as loud as I can until my throat hurt. There's dropped pronouns here. He doesn't say I was screaming. He says screaming as loud as I can. So now he comes into it there, until my throat hurt. Again, we've got ownership of that. Screaming. Now, screaming what? He doesn't say. Very much like searching for what, he doesn't say. And he doesn't say here why he was screaming or what he was screaming. He just says screaming loud as I can. Now, screaming is a word that can be quite horrific. That people scream when they are frightened, when they are scared, when they are being attacked. So it's quite a almost violent sort of word, screaming, isn't it? And also, this is a word about noise. And I noticed that in the mom's interview, she talked about noise and sound a lot, about how she could hear the children, then she couldn't hear the children. She couldn't hear the door open that she thinks the children went out of. And she also said the children would talk lots. There was lots in the mom about the sound. And here we have again from Daniel, more talk of sound. Screaming loud as I can until my throat hurt. Why is he telling us his throat hurt? Worried here, because again, we've got this concept of concern for self. These children are missing. They are very young children, 6 years old and 4 years old. And yet he's concerned about his throat hurting. Why is throat hurting something that he wants to tell us? We'll come on to that as he mentions it again. He then said, I was running through the water that was up to my waist, and as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed into the woods until a man dressed in military outfit said I could go back into the woods. We have running again, running through water that was up to my waist. That's not really possible. You wade slowly through water that is up to your waist. So what is the concept that he's trying to get across here? Again, is this to show how active, how fast he was moving with all of this? It seems really important for him to get across to us how fast this guy was moving. Running through water. We have mention of water again from Daniel there. I know it was raining, so water in some ways would be natural to be about, but he feels the need to tell us he was running through water that was up to his waist. Again, is this potentially constructed to, well, it should be constructed because you can't run through water that's up to your waist. You can try, but you can't. So is this to show how active he was? But the mention of water is there again. And then he talks about, I wasn't allowed back in the woods. And he doesn't really, again, this doesn't join up. He doesn't tell us that he left the woods and tried to get back into the woods. He just says to us, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in military outfit said I could go back into the woods. I don't quite know why he feels the need to tell us that he couldn't get into the woods until he could get into the woods. But again, getting into the woods is really, really important to Daniel. Let's get some more from the guy.
As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
Okay. Familiar concepts coming up here from the guy. As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in my vehicle. I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. So this is a different interview from the one we've looked at before. So I'm fine with the fact that he's repeating himself because he's telling the same story to a different person. But it's interesting about the concepts that he is repeating here. Nothing about worry or concern for the kids is coming through in the things that he's repeating. What we get is, as soon as I seen they were missing. So again, we've got this immediacy, this need for him to tell us that he moved quickly, he reacted quickly. As soon as I seen they were missing, that again, not realized, not got the fright of my life or anything like that. It's I saw they were missing. Now, that really, I saw they were missing would only work if you thought they were in one place and were convinced they were in one place and then they weren't there. When they, in their telling of the story, these guys, the children got out and went out to play outside, and it's that point they disappeared. So seeing they were missing doesn't really hold up there as a word description. It would more be realised they were missing that was there. I jumped right in the vehicle. So again, we have this concept from the guy that he moved straight away. I jumped right in the vehicle and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert. Another mention of water around these missing children. He then says, the very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. Wasn't around what very much? You were around, you were searching. So I'm not quite sure what he wasn't around the house where the children disappeared from. Is there something that's potentially put to him that it's suspicious that the day the children went missing, you weren't around the house very much? I don't know if that accusation has been put to him, but it's important for him to explain why he wasn't around very much the very first day. And he says, because I was just searching. If you're a regular here, you'll know my suspicion of the word just. It's a red flag word for deception. As I always say, just because someone uses the word just, like I did there, does not mean they are lying or they are deceiving you, but you should dig into why does that person use just? Are they trying to narrow my focus down on something? Are they trying to make something sound very small so you don't pay it a lot of attention? But he's used the word, I was just searching. Makes me think it's possible he was doing more than searching that day. He says, I was running through the woods, so we have the mention of the woods again, and then once more screaming their name until my throat hurt. So again, he doesn't use I on screaming. He doesn't say I was screaming their name, which would be ownership and showing that he is committed to talking about himself doing it. It's not done with I, it's screaming their name. Now, this time we do have what he was screaming, but we do have that mention of screaming again. So we've got another sound word going on there, screaming their name until my throat hurt. So that's twice in two different interviews he's mentioned screaming and hurting throats. Both of those imageries are in his head, screaming and hurting throats. And in my opinion, in my thoughts, those are not, screaming and sore throats are not reassuring words to hear from the last person to see children alive at the moment. And I hope I'm really wrong on that one, but I do not like screaming and throat hurting. Twice now he's done it. I do not like them coming from someone who is talking about being searching for these children. I could be wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but I do not like those words there. So we've looked at a lot of Daniel talking so far. I see repeated mentions of water, repeated mentions of the woods, repeated mentions of a throat hurting, and a sense of immediacy that he wants to get across to us, and also conveying the fact that he was out there searching and how hard he was working on the search is very, very important to the guy. Coming up, we'll look at how Daniel talks in detail about the moment he realised the children were missing. And what doesn't he speak about? That is possibly very revealing. Hey, listen, ever feel like you're not being told the full story? I'm feeling like that right now with Daniel. And you're right, because this is happening to you all the time. I'm here to give you the key to digging deeper into that, because this is about hearing the world with new ears. That's what I do in this channel. I hope that I can help people hear the world in a very different way. So I want to share this with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock the secret for yourself, subscribe to this channel, follow it, join in the movement, and delve into the archives. There's a treasure trove of cases waiting for you to explore. And do you know someone who needs this, someone who deserves to hear the truth? Then hit that like button, that helps it get out to more people. Share this, recommend it to others, pass it on, because every single click, every single share fuels the fire. It allows me to dig deeper, analyze further, and bring this potentially life-changing skill to even more people. I regularly hear from people, grateful audience members who've navigated tricky situations in their personal lives using the listening skills they've learned on this channel. So your share or recommendation could guide someone like that. It's a great gift to give. So let's do this. Let's get some more now from Daniel talking.
They hate being wet and cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only two prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
And finally, we have Daniel talking in some detail about the children. He says they hate being wet and cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only two prints are on the right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it. So he's talking about the children, and he's showing concern for them, although it's not voiced as concern, it's just voiced as factual process information about those children. Very much like the mom, this is a reassuring way of talking about the children in some way, because he's talking about them in the present tense. Trust me, I've done a case recently where I'm looking at a missing person, and there are a lot of people talking about this missing person in the past tense, suggesting psychologically they think that person is no longer with us. Here we have present tense. They hate being wet and cold. So that is a reassuring fact for me. We have the mention of water again. They hate being wet and cold. Water looms large in Daniel's telling of this story. So they immediately would have come right back into the house. We have this sense of immediacy. Again, things happening quickly is obviously a priority for him to talk about, and would have came right back into the house. That if they went out to play outside, if they hated being wet and cold, would they, young children, would they allow themselves to get wet and cold? Potentially, or would they have come right back into the house? It's a little bit curious. It is talking about the children and their personalities. It is talking about them in the present tense. But again, it's not very wide. He doesn't talk about why they hate being wet and cold. He doesn't talk about what else he thinks could have happened, although he does talk about two boot prints, and he talks about that in quite a few things I've seen him talk about. He's very focused on these boot prints, although they do, like he says, there are two footprints facing the road, and then that's it. He doesn't, again, expand on what he thinks or what he means by mentioning those things.
Anybody who has any information, or you think you've seen something or hear something, or any messages from friends about hearing something, just contact your local police services. Anything, guys, anything.
I included that because this is him appealing for information, and it looks like a genuine appeal for information. He's not frightened of what information it appears could come forward. Anybody who has any information or you think has seen something or hear something or any messages from friends about hearing something, just contact your local police services. Anything, guys, anything. So Whatever the truth of this whole situation is, he's not frightened of appealing and asking for anybody who has any information to get forward to local police. He is very open to the idea that people can come forward to the police with any information. That's all very wide. But did you notice anything else there? The focus on hearing something. Anybody you think has seen something, so that's seen something, and that's entirely natural with missing children. Have you seen them, or have you seen children's clothing, or anything like that? And then, or hear something. So we've got focus on sound again. Did anyone who hear something or any messages? Now, messages can be written, but again, messages are a sort of verbal way of communicating. Again, verbal noise from friends about hearing something. So this makes me wonder that, again, sound is really important. Was there some sound, some noise associated with the children going missing? And that is leakage from inside him, that he knows that noise was associated with these children going missing. Let's get some more from Daniel.
I'm out here still searching, still fighting to try to find them. That's all I can do.
The message is still, if anyone knows anything?
If anybody knows anything, just come forward as soon as possible. 2 little kids are still out there. I want to find them. That's really all I can do. Still searching every day. I'm waiting for information. I have to let them do a lot of their stuff with the aircrafts and everything else, and dogs and searchers. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be coordinated, and I can't just go running through the woods. I want to, but I just can't right now because the search is just so far out.
So he starts off there by saying, I'm out there still searching, still fighting to try and find them. That's all I can do. The word, again, it's important for him to show that he's searching. It's something that's a real priority for him. You'll notice he's obviously not searching when he's giving these interviews. I'm not saying that's suspicious, but he really wants to convey that he is searching. In fact, him there searching is just the most important thing for him to get across to us. How he's searching, maybe that is to convince us that he has hope that these children are still alive. And he says still, as if he's still searching, still fighting, as if he's not giving up, as if it's, look, I still have the hope here. I still believe that I can find these children. But again, it's just very persuasive to us that he really wants to get across that he's searching and still fighting to try and find them. That suggests some sort of conflict going on around whether he'll fight him or not. Is that to do with the fact that there are other things that have to be taken into consideration that he talks about later? But he's fighting to try to find them. Again, there's a bit of distance there with try to find them. I'm still fighting to find them would be very direct. We have that try in the middle. Try suggests maybe a lack of belief that this is going to be successful. He says, that's all I can do. The interviewer there says to him, the message is still, if anybody knows anything. And he says, if anybody knows anything, just come forward as soon as possible. 2 little kids are still out there. I want to find them. That's really all I can do. So again, we have this wide-ranging, if anybody knows anything, come forward as soon as possible, which is a concept we've seen from him before. He's very comfortable in hoping that he, or appealing to anyone to come forward and say anything. And then he says, 2 little kids are still out there. Interesting. Again, it is a mention of the children. It's an acknowledgement that they are missing. There's no concern voiced for them, though. There's sort of implicit concern, but he doesn't say, they really need to be found. They're scared. I'm really concerned about their welfare or anything like that. And also he says 2 little kids are still out there. Now, these children went missing. He's going to talk, and the mum's talked about the possibility of abduction. They don't think it's a high possibility, but it's a possibility of abduction. Therefore, he's out there. I'm presuming he's talking about the woods again, that sort of area. And it seems to be, and this came through in the moms as well, that they are convinced the children are out there, outdoors, away from the house, not abducted. And if a child was abducted, we'd presume that they were out there in a wider sense, but maybe sheltered at the very least. But these kids are still out there. I want to find them. That is really all I can do. Again, he's just saying that he's doing all that he can. He wants to show how busy, but really it's not about how busy. It's important for him to get across this searching thing. He says, again, still searching every day. Look, I'm still doing this. I haven't given up. Now, there's another reason why that could be, which is Mom's disappeared. She, and I know this not from the statements, but she has gone away from the house that she shared with Daniel and 3 kids, 2 of which are missing. So is this him saying, look, I am the one that is still here, that is still searching while Mom has disappeared? Is that the need to say he's still searching while Mom's given up? I'm waiting for information. I have to let them do a lot of this stuff, the stuff with the aircraft and everything else. We have more sense of things in the sky. I think he talked about helicopters, planes, drones earlier, aircrafts. So these seem to be very important for him to mention these things, circling over the area, looking down for the children. And dogs and searchers, there's a lot of stuff like that needs to be coordinated. I can't just go running through the woods. We have mention of the woods again, and we have again this running through the woods concept, which to me is not searching. And what he's talking about there is the difference between this methodical search that the law enforcement are doing with aircrafts and drones and dogs and searchers, and then a lot of stuff that needs to be coordinated, very methodical, and he just wants to go running through the woods. I think what's important for him isn't really the search, it's the fact that he's seen to be active and searching and still searching. That appears to me to be more important to him in his words than the actual search itself. He says, I want to, but I can't right now because the search is just so far out. Now, we have a bit of a contradiction there because he said he's still searching every day, and then he seems to say, I can't go running through the woods. I want to, but I can't right now because the search is just so far out. So is he saying he is searching, or is he saying he can't search right now because his type of search wouldn't go with the police type of search? I'm unsure of what is going on there, but while he wants to show us how active he is, he's now telling us he can't just go running through the woods. So that's all the video I've got to listen to what Daniel says. I did find an interview that was clipped in an article online, so let me read through that. And the quotes from Daniel in this article are, as soon as I noticed that I didn't hear anything, I immediately jumped out of the bed. I searched the bedrooms and looked in the backyard because they go looking for bugs and grass to feed the chickens. So, same old concepts here. As soon as I noticed, I didn't hear anything. So as soon as I noticed, I did something. I immediately jumped out of the bed. So again, we have this need to persuade us that the action was instant. As soon as I noticed I didn't hear anything, I immediately jumped out of the bed. We have that casual word, noticed. As soon as I noticed that I didn't hear anything, so we've got the sense of sound again, the fact that the sound stopped, and that is what alerted them. I didn't hear anything. We'll notice again, it's I didn't hear anything now. And the telling, the mom tells they could hear the kids playing, and then they noticed they couldn't hear the kids playing, that it had gone quiet. But he doesn't say I couldn't hear the kids playing, it's I didn't hear anything. I immediately, he moved immediately. We know Dan got out of bed. I searched the bedrooms and looked in the backyard because they go looking for grass to feed the chickens. And when I noticed they weren't there, I jumped in my vehicle and surveyed every dirt road and culvert that a culvert I could find. So we have, I searched the bedrooms and looked in the backyard because they go looking for bugs and grass to feed the chickens. So he needs to tell us why he searched the backyard. And this is almost a kind of binary search. I checked the bedrooms and the backyard. He doesn't say he checked anything else out. It was check the bedrooms and then the backyard. No mention of living room, lounge, kitchen, front yard, immediate vicinity or anything like that. It's kind of like he checked the bedrooms, he checked the backyards and ruled that out. Again, when I noticed they weren't there. Now, again, he doesn't know where they are. He's searching for them, so he can't notice they weren't there. That's what happens when you expect to see something or casually see something. So that word noticed, it's way too casual and it's not used right here. Again, it's not realized or it dawned on me or anything like that. It's I noticed they weren't there. I jumped in my vehicle and surveyed every dirt road and culvert I could find. So we have that mention of the water again. He then said in this article, they went to the back sliding door. It's virtually silent when you try to open it. Now, he doesn't say how he knows they did this. because if what he's telling us is that the children were up playing, and as soon as they went quiet, he got up and looked. How does he know they went to the back sliding door? He may be able to tell us they went out the back sliding door, especially if the door was open, or that's the only way out of the house. But it's very curious to me that he is talking about knowing what happened. They went to the back sliding door. He then says it's virtually silent when you try to open it. So virtually silent is not silent. That's an observation of mine there, is that it obviously makes some noise because it's not silent. It's virtually silent. And when you try to open it, not when you open it, but when you try to open it, again, very curious wording. Mom was the same around this back sliding door. He talks about the foot tracks again. We only found 2 boot tracks outside the house, about 10 feet away from the backyard. He then talks about the possibility of abduction. He says, I have no idea why anyone would want to take them. Now, no idea is another red flag for deception case here. Look, I've got some ideas why people would want to adopt them. I've got possibilities. I don't have any proof or any real evidence to think about why someone would try to abduct them. But I do have ideas about why someone would try to abduct 2 young kids. But he has no ideas why anyone would want to take them. And then he says, but they're easy to take. Now that's curious to me, worrying to me, because that suggests experience of taking them. He doesn't say they would be easy to take, or I imagine it wouldn't be hard to take them. It's they are easy to take. They're easy to take. That's talking from experience, not talking about a possibility there. They're easy to take. If they would have wandered to the road, they would get in any car as long as you offered them food or water. So they would get in any car as long as you offered them food or water. Not they were offered food or water, but you offered them food or water. We have, again, a mention of water once more. And I don't pick it up so much from what Dan says, but when I was listening to the mom, I got a sense that there was potentially some neglect in this household because she had a need to give us a resume statement about what great parent she was. And then offering food or water. That's very basic rations, if you know what I mean. He does then go on to say, or even candy or anything like that. Well, potentially for a lot of children, candy would be the treat on top of the regular food, water that they have. That would be the lure to get them away. But here he's talking about very basic rations that would get them away, food or water, or even candy or anything like that, or even to see mom and dad, they would immediately get in. We've got that word immediately again. He wants to show how fast this went for some reason. Even to see mom and dad is, I find that a mind-blowing concept to mention because they've just left mom and stepdad's house in this possible scenario that he's putting there. So would they get in a car to see mom and dad when they go, no, I'll just turn around and go back in the house and see mom and dad. Interesting there for the guy. I don't like this interview there. And this part of the interview really worries me. Now, often when people are talking, it's very useful to look at what is missing and what don't they mention. I've mentioned it a few times, but there is missing concern for these kids. I just don't feel that he is verbalizing any worry about them, any real concern, even hopes that they will come home and everything will be all right, that he's wishing for the best or anything. None of that is verbalized there. And also, did you notice that in everything we've seen him speak, there is no mention of his partner? In her interview, she mentioned Daniel's actions, but in his interview, he doesn't mention her once at all, suggesting some big distance between them. I know factually there is big difference. She has left the house with her youngest child, blocked him on social media apparently. So I know from circumstances that there is this distance between them, but it's also there in his words, that distance there, that he does not acknowledge these children have a mother, and he does not acknowledge that he had a partner who was involved in what went on that day. When he talks about that day, and when he talks about the day, realizing they were missing, he talks about what he did. I didn't hear anything. I immediately jumped out of bed. I searched the bedrooms and went looking in the backyard. He doesn't put the mom in that scenario whatsoever. So listen, Is this guy just a helpful searcher trying to find these children, or is it a little bit more suspicious? The question we started this episode off with. I've got concerns. When I look at that word set that he used, and he's talking about running through the wood and running through water, it reminds me of someone talking about a nightmare. Now, if your children were missing, you'd say it's a complete nightmare, but actually it reminds me of a nightmare in that the sort of nightmares that we have, fictitious stories that are really hard to get through. Once more, just like Mom, he's got this need to convince us that he acted immediately as soon as he knew that the children were missing. He's got this need to persuade us that it was all immediately. I just jumped in the car. Again, I've got some doubts as I think there was a delay between the children going missing and him starting any search efforts and also the police being called. He really wants to say what he's done. It's the most important thing for him to get across is the fact that from day one, from the moment he noticed these children were missing, he was out there searching. He has a real need to persuade us of that. He is talking about children in the present tense. He is open to information coming through there. Those are reassuring factors. But the same as the mom, sound is very important. Screaming, this virtually silent back door. I didn't hear anything that morning. Sound is really important. I think sound is key in his memories of the children going missing for some reason. I think he is convinced that they are in the woods. Water is very, very important to him. He mentions it a lot, is that he thinks the kids are in water or close to water, or is that something about the kids needing water because he said they could be tempted away by water as well. And the thing that didn't work for me at all was this talk of screaming and this curious talk of screaming that he said he did, but was someone else actually doing the screaming, and also the mention of the sore throat that he mentioned twice. Are sore throats high up in his priorities? In other words, there are a couple of reassuring things here when Daniel talks, but just like the mom, I find it really not reassuring, and many things in his words that concern me. I really hope, more than ever, I hope I am wrong with my analysis and that there's a best case scenario where there was an altercation that maybe involved screaming that caused these children to just run away, flee a bad situation, and that they could be found and they could be found safe. I really do hope that that is the outcome. But from the words I've seen from the mom and the words I've seen from Daniel Martell, I'm really, really concerned. What do you think? Do let me know on social media. You can find all the social media links at neveratruerword.com. There you can also look at a whole load more videos or podcasts, including more people close to missing persons, to look at how they talk, and are they suspicious or are they just genuinely very concerned people. You can find all of that at neveratruerword.com. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.